Bryan, I think the last time I saw you was after that last game. Have you had a chance to kind of step back and just admire what Cocalico football has achieved the last 2 years?
I mean, it took a month or two to kind of flush that last game. And I think then you start to sit back and appreciate a little bit, but it's one of those things that if you just focus on that, you're going to become complacent. And I think that's never your goal, and it's always trying to learn from it, and every year is new. So we're going to have a totally different crew this year than what we had last year, which was different from what we had the year before. And I think one of the most fun aspects of coaching is just watching each group grow together and that team cohesiveness be built. And you hope that what was accomplished the last couple of years in terms of a standard of how practice should go and how you should compete, you hope that gets passed down to this next crew.
I mean, obviously as a coach, you're always trying to help the kids build to become better players. Do you sit and dissect the game and look at it and think, okay, what do I need to do better, or who are you getting feedback from or asking feedback from?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most stressful things as a head coach, and one of the most demanding things is, there's so many things to look at. It's to look at my role. It's to look at, how do we handle getting information from coaches in the press box or on the sideline, and communication of substitutions, and how do we communicate to the players on the field, and all that. So it's a lot that goes into it, and you're always trying to improve, and it's why you go to coaching clinics, and it's why you watch things on YouTube or whatever it may be to try to learn new wrinkles and things like that, because you're always trying to get better. But certainly there's many decisions that are made, and processes that you're always trying to refine and improve.
Looking back and looking at some of the kids that graduated and the impact they had on the Cocalico football program, just kind of touch on that to kind of put a bow on last year.
And I'll start with the number 20, like 20 seniors. And I don't think that's that common. And they weren't just 20 seniors in number, they were quality too. I mean, I think people tend to bring up Aaron Longenecker right away, and obviously he accomplished a ton both sides of the ball and was a playmaker for us. And but Aaron accomplished a lot of what he did because of the offensive linemen in front of him and the receivers blocking. And we lose our entire starting offensive line plus one or two quality backups, and we lose our top two tight ends. So we'll have to replace those guys as best as we can. And a Sam Steffi in the backfield and at linebacker, and I could go from one to the next. And I think injuries last year were something that obviously weren't a good thing. Like Bryce dealt with some injuries, and Sam dealt with some injuries, and Adam Loudenslager dealt with some injuries, but that also provided some opportunities for kids that now we look at to kind of take over starting roles, and they got some of that last year where they were thrown into it, where maybe they weren't starting week 1, week 2, but they were starting in the state semifinal game. Dane Horning, who had played middle linebacker, but he was starting a middle linebacker and fullback after Sam was dealing with some stuff. And David Betts, who, with Braden having some injuries and Bryce having some injuries, he was able to get some valuable time that I think he now is going to play with a lot more confidence as a junior than he would have had if he wouldn't have gotten that experience as a sophomore. So, when you play 14, 15 games in a season like we have the last two, you deal with adversity every season. And part of that is having those next kids step up, and then they move into more of a leadership role now.
Yeah. So, all right. So talk about, you said about the offensive line. Everybody was a senior last year. So really coaching up these underclassmen. And you said some of these guys obviously had, some chances to play. Mm-hmm. How have they embraced the challenges ahead of them? Yeah,
I mean, I think the one thing that's fun is there's going to be a lot of competition. Like, last year, a lot of our kids were returning starters, where this year, like you said, that whole slate is wiped clean. Mm-hmm. So, we look for a Thomas Totoli, who had started on a defensive line and subbed in someone on the offensive line to kind of be the leader there. We have a kid, Jerry McCardle, who started at linebacker the last couple games and played a lot at receiver last year, who is moving to offensive tackle. So he's going to go from number 5 to number 53. And, it's something you don't hear very often, that move from wide receiver to tackle, but it's the beauty of our system, I guess, where a kid can do that. And he's fully embraced it. And I look forward to seeing how he gets off the ball and tackling into people, and he's got a little mean streak in him, which you got to try to keep under wraps at times. But he's another kid who will be a senior. We look to lead there, and have a couple other seniors, some juniors, a couple sophomores coming up that I think can all compete for starting spots there.
Yeah, and you talked about the injuries, and the one that kind of stands out as far as guys coming back this year was Braden Epinette. And I know it just seems like all season long he just couldn't get on the field. How is he as far as this season is concerned?
He's doing well for now.
Okay.
And hopefully we can keep it that way. I'm knocking on anything I can knock on to make sure he can play a full season this year. And you feel terrible for a kid who has spent so much time training and trying to improve himself to just deal with one nagging injury after another, and you just feel snake bitten at some point. But a tremendous kid, and I can just hope and pray that he'll be able to make it through the season fine and those ankles hold up. Dane Bollinger is another kid who was our leading tackler last year, and unfortunately had an injury playing some basketball in gym class that he's going to miss some time to start the season. So he's been taking much more of a coaching role and helping the other kids, which has been really neat to see too. But we'll miss him out there as well, and can't wait to get him back.
Yeah, I was going to say, it must be a hard pill to swallow for not only you, but for him, not being able to put the pads on. I want to get to Josh Meyer now, because this is going to be season 3 for him, that he's going to be able to see some significant varsity time. What has he meant to the program, and what's it like for you as a coach, knowing, okay, now he's fully embraced this role now, and you feel like he's got it. How much? I'm trying to think of the right word.
I think I know where you're headed with that too, and I think the big thing is, like, a coach-quarterback relationship or a play caller-quarterback relationship is just different than a lot of other relationships you have in sports. Like, you have to be on the same page. And when Josh was new to starting as a sophomore, it's harder to trust him because you haven't been through it. Where I think at this point, Josh, for the most part, understands what I'm thinking, and I understand what he's thinking, because we've gone through, close to 30 games together as play caller and quarterback, which it's certainly nice to have that and know you can rely on that. But at the same time, every year's different, every game's different, and we're gonna have a lot of different teams we haven't seen before, and it'll be nice that I think most of the things teams can throw at him, he's gonna have seen. So you hope that he can help steady the ship and get the team leading the right way.
Yeah. So leading into the season, and I pose this question to the other coaches, and obviously it could change from when I ask you today to the time we see you for our first telecast. What are going to be the keys for Cocalico this year? I know what one's going to be.
I mean, number one is the guys in the trenches. Number 2 is getting younger guys to take that next step and building their confidence. And then number 3, I would say, is continuing to build depth, because I think to start the season, we're going to have a lot of guys going both ways. Like Josh is going to play in the secondary this year, where we've had the luxury that, I'm not even going to say there was a drop off, but this year, like, what Josh can bring to us in the secondary is going to be huge. So, we need to build that depth so that if he needs a break, or Braden needs a break, or Thomas needs a break, whoever it may be, that we're able to do that with a kid that we trust and that his teammates trust. And so, we know as a coaching staff, our job is going to be a little more difficult this year than maybe it was last year, with a lot of kids returning, to try to get those kids to take the next step and build their confidence and our confidence in them.
What kind of numbers do you have as far as kids coming out?
We're a little lower this year. We're going to be low 40s probably. Which in some ways it's disappointing. I think our numbers at the midget level are really high. And like the youth camp that we run, we broke a record again with the most kids we've had. But I think what's frustrating is so often you have kids who are playing AAU basketball or club lacrosse or rugby, or you could name it, and or kids who need to work to pay for car insurance for their family. Like, I've heard so many different reasons, and it's tough. This day and age, it's hard to get kids to be multi-sport athletes, and we preach that, and they're just different obstacles you deal with. And the big message we want to deliver to our kids is, look, we don't need 50, 60 kids on the bus. If we've got 40 on the bus and those 40 are the right kids, that's what we want. So, we talked with our seniors about this too. Like, we don't want to lower the standard or, what they've accomplished. In order to continue to accomplish that, we need the right kids. And I think ultimately that's going to be the key is, making the most out of the talent that we have and continuing to get better every week.